Kindness costs nothing. It's a beautiful saying, and one that many of us have probably heard multiple times. But if kindness really cost nothing, then it would be commonplace, not worth mentioning. The mere fact that so much emphasis is placed upon the necessity of being kind highlights its inadequate presence in our lives. It's true. It costs you nothing to hold open a door, to say please and thank you, and yeah, most people would be delighted to be on the receiving end of such pleasantries. But acts of kindness with immense impact require sacrifice. Spending hours consoling a friend who has hit hard times when your own life marches on. Deadlines pile up. Stress flows from a faucet. Stopping to help a driver on the side of the road, knowing you'll be late for work. Standing up to a bully, knowing you're the next target. Acts of sacrifice. Acts of kindness. So while we all learn in elementary to be caring, compassionate, in a world where you could be anything to choose to be kind, most of us realize as we get older why these are called ideals. Because they're just sayings. Niceties put into words and nothing else. We live in a society that demands excellence, so every day we are faced with a decision. Self-sacrifice for the sake of others, self-improvement for the sake of self-development. But when society forces individuals to internalize the cost of kindness, well, very few people are willing to be kind. But it gets worse than that. Because we live in a world that demands so much from each and every single one of us, it's so hard to reach the top, yet so omnipresent is the pressure to do so. So I think it comes to no surprise that there are people out there who are willing to claw their way up to the top at the expense of other people. After all, the same rational motivation one might have to stay away from being kind, simply because it's too much of a sacrifice on their part, also motivates a small portion of people to embrace improving themselves at the expense of others. Hence, we see the opposite of kindness. We see intentional cruelty. A sad part of the world we live in, but one so many of us have faced. Because society fails to force cruel individuals to internalize the cost of cruelty, to internalize the repercussions of their own actions. So for a lot of people, it seems like the most rational decision is to backstab and betray others to come out on top. Herein creates a vicious cycle. For in a world where one has to be wary of backstabbing and betrayals, we are afraid. Afraid that any apparent kindness is more of a concealed dagger than a well-intentioned helping hand. So another cost gets placed upon kindness. 'Cause now not only do you need to consider the impact kindness has on your own life, but you also need to be aware that your kindness might look like a transaction, exploiting someone else's moment of weakness, even if, in reality, you just genuinely want to help someone. Another barrier to being kind, another reason that people stay away from it. In fact, in a study conducted in 2022 by the BBC and the University of Sussex, when 60,000 people were asked why they chose to stay away from being kind, the most common answer was fear of misinterpretation. They were afraid that others would think they had ulterior motives. They were afraid that others would be insulted by their help. So in this dreary world of misaligned incentives, what place does kindness really have? It seems a bit unfair to desire to change society, to change the incentives that someone might have to strive for self-betterment. So how do we make the incentives align? How do we make it so that people are willing to be kind and cruel individuals have to internalize the cost of cruelty? You'll find the answer is surprisingly simple. To realize that kindness is not a zero-sum game. Sure, it takes you hours or days to console a friend through a rough patch in their life, but those small moments make an impact on the rest of their lives. So when we look at the net impact of kindness, it is disproportionately positive. So as long as a majority of people are willing to be kind, you won't only find yourself on the giving end, but also the receiving one. And in a moment of dire need, if someone is willing to step up and help you, you will be paid back tenfold for all you have sacrificed for others. So now, we create a positive cycle that perpetuates kindness. In being kind and allowing others to receive the benefits of kindness, they themselves are more likely to be kind to other people, creating a ripple effect, one whose waves, or at least I hope, will reach the corners of the world. And this will require sacrifice. Make no mistake that selfless sacrifice is always required for kindness to perpetuate. But as more and more people embrace kindness, the more and more likely it is that during a dark time in your life, you'll be extended a ray of hope. And in the words of Princess Diana, carry out a random act of kindness with no expectation of reward, safe in the knowledge that one day someone will do the same for you. And I think we've all had those moments of pleasant surprise when we've thought to ourselves and said, what goes around literally does come around. For a while, I had these two beautiful matching mechanical pencils. They were my everything. I made sure they never got dirty, and they made sure that I never failed an assignment. We were inseparable. But when my friend needed a pencil to complete a project, without hesitation, I gifted my pencil away. Okay, so maybe there was like this much hesitation, but you get the point. My duo became an uno. A couple weeks later, I was taking a math test when I realized that I had left my pencil case at home. So there I was, wondering if pulling the fire alarm was a good idea, when suddenly a friend extended an olive branch to me. A very familiar looking pencil passed on from classmate to classmate until ending up exactly where it began. So while I was a little bit sad in having to give my pencil away, the amount of relief and joy that I felt in getting the pencil back, being able to complete my test, vastly outweighed it. So be willing to make sacrifices. Know the impact your sacrifice has on other people's lives. But at the same time, be grateful for kindness. Know that it's never free. And when someone is willing to step up and support you and comfort you, they might have had to make a sacrifice that no one can see. And finally, for those of you out there who are still a little bit cynical, realize that the moment we start walking towards that kinder, better world, realize it can only get better from there. When the majority of people are kind, selfish individuals who still refuse to change are now isolated because everyone knows what their personality is like and what they are willing to sacrifice for themselves. So now, these cruel individuals have two options. Either they stay alienated, or they join everyone else and become kind as well. Maybe in the beginning, this has some selfish intention behind it. But as more and more people embrace kindness, the more and more kind acts they end up doing, it becomes a reflex with nothing but good intentions behind it. This applies to all of us. Be the one to take the first step. Make it a goal. Do one kind thing every single day. No matter if that's giving a pencil to a friend or helping them study for a test, even when you have your own. Realize how as the days slowly turn to weeks and months, notice how quickly you can spot the people around you who could really use your comfort and your support. And in those moments, notice just how easy it is to help them. In our world, we float between these two extremes, and the degree of sacrifice each one of us is willing to make in order to be kind determines which direction we move in. In other words, choose very, very carefully what you decide to spread around you, because that's what's going to be there to catch you when you fall. Thank you.